Broadcasting live from atop the Rocky Mountains, the crossroads of the West. You are listening to the Liberty Roundtable Radio Talk Show.
Happy to have you along, my fellow Americans. All kinds of hard-hitting news the networks refuse to use starts now. Amazon scrambles to get into hundreds of theaters. Congress and Trump do a reverse. RFK, JR, and company feeling the results. Trump sits down with the mainstream press, as he always does, ignoring the new media taking center stage. Why he criticizes the press but sits down with them over and over and over is beyond me. Yes, Epstein did talk about, well, I'll tell you about it later. Yeah, he also secretly created, we'll tell you about all that. And then the ceasefire in question. Happy to have you along, my fellow Americans. We've got a lot of stories to cover and a little time to get it done. Welcome to the show. Hope you're all doing absolutely fantastic. Gold and silver continue to just go crazy. And the folks over at Free Water Co. are so swamped with orders and everything else that Heath can't be on with us today. So our prayers are with him and his family as they work on just the craziness in the marketplace. But I want to talk about the ceasefire. The ceasefire is in question after Israeli strikes leave 24 dead in Gaza. Yeah, at least 24 people were killed by Israeli strikes across Gaza. Now it's raising serious doubts about whether the ceasefire is still in force. And folks, let me just kind of tell you my thoughts on this. I'm not here to criticize President Trump, saying, oh, the ceasefire's failing. I'm not here to attack Israel. I'm not here to attack Palestine. I'm not here to attack any of these people. Here's what I am all about. Ready? I believe in civility. I believe in kindness. I believe in respect. I believe in personal, God-given agency. And you know what? People have the choices whether to be peaceful or ruthless, kind or deceptive. And sadly, you don't know who's who. And you're not able to read people's hearts, so you don't really know, right? All I want to focus on is this. Ceasefire in question. People are really wondering now, is the ceasefire real? Every time we think the ceasefire is in place, before you know it, it's breached. And what Israel says is it's Gaza's fault. What Gaza says is it's Israel's fault. I don't know. I'm not there. I don't have feet on the ground. But here's what I do know. Somebody doesn't want peace, or else we would have peace. It may be more than one somebody. It may be somebodies. And it may be somebodies on different sides of the battle. You know, you got the Israeli side, you got the Gaza, or whatever you want to say, Hamas, or whatever company side. You got the Palestinians, you got the... This stuff has been biblically going on for thousands of years, ladies and gentlemen. So, you know, I appreciate Donald Trump's positive attitude that, hey, he can get in there and fix it. And I pray that Donald J. Trump truly can get that done. Because I would love nothing more than peace around the world. We can agree to disagree. We can be kind and have a difference of opinion, difference of belief, different religious views, different political views, different understandings. My problem, though, is that this has been going on for thousands of years, and I appreciate Trump's desire to solve it, but I don't think he can. So I think we have a ceasefire. I think it's in place. I think it's in question. I think it's been breached from time to time. That's all factual. And so I'm bringing it up not to highlight that it's a failure. I'm bringing it up because I believe there's serious doubts about whether the ceasefire is still in place. And the reason I say that is I think Trump, if he's going to continue to be involved in this, needs to go to both parties and say, are you guys still committed to the ceasefire? How and why did this happen? What can we do to make sure it doesn't happen again? I think that's wise. Now, personally, if I had my complete preference, I would have Donald stay out of it entirely. Because the problem is one day you look like a rock star because you got the peace accord happening. And then the next day it falls apart and you look like an idiot because it isn't really true or real. And in the end of the day, what I don't want is America to be tied up in these foreign entanglements that never, ever, ever seem to go away or resolve themselves. The only time these wars are going to end, the only time these people are going to be on the same page is when Christ himself comes. Then there's going to be no subterfuge. There's going to be no confusion or misdirection or dishonesty. You can't deceive the real king, King Jesus, right? And so I don't know that we're going to solve this until the Savior comes. Now, anytime we can have less killing, less murder, less destruction, less suffering, I'm in. I'm for it. But when we do it at our own peril, as a nation, as President Trump is a leader, the blowback can be fierce. And one day it can look great, and the next day everybody can turn on you. And so I'm sad that 24 people got killed. I'm sad that Israeli troops or Israeli leadership or Benjamin Netanyahu, whoever, I'm sad that they committed more strikes during the ceasefire where there's 24 dead in Gaza. That just isn't going to help. You know, there's serious doubts about the ceasefire being in full force now. And the problem is that if the Gaza folks, you know, Palestine, whoever, Hamas, I mean, it's hard to even know who's who and which factions who's fighting. Israel's fighting everybody, right? Now, they say that it's a poison pill to even ever talk about Israel because it's kind of like the third rail of politics. You can't touch Social Security, right? It's hard to even talk about Israel because they want to say I'm anti-Semitic if I criticize. And if I stand 100% with Israel, then they want to praise me till the cows come home. But the other side hates you, right? And so there's no good answers with these discussions. And that's what I mean. If it's foreign entanglement for me even to talk about it, just think of the foreign entanglements that arise if I'm actually trying to, what words should I use? Use government mojo, maybe the best way. Use the power of the United States as the leader of the free world. Use trade, use this, use that, you know, right? Okay. I don't want us to step in it, but now we're basically being hostile to countries that buy oil from Russia. You say, well, Sam, that's a switch gears. Yes, it is. But that's my point. When does one war start and the other war end? How does one war affect another war? When we start messing with Venezuela, we're affecting Cuba. When we start affecting Cuba, you know, hey, didn't they get their oil from, didn't Russia get oil from them? What, you know, how about China? Did they get oil from them? Okay. What if the Indians or who knows who sell Russia oil? Then what? And so we're going to penalize people for buying oil from a different country than, quote, approved oil from the United States? See, we're not the approved economic world leader, folks. We might say that. We might think we are. We might throw our weight around, but eventually that idea will backfire. So look, let's just not give any foreign aid to anybody. We can't afford it. We're in debt $38 trillion with a T dollars and growing at an alarming rate. Congress didn't cut back spending in any way for this last budget fiasco, keeping the government open. Therefore, now there's greater moral hazard and greater concern about fiscal restraint. Meanwhile, let's not fund anybody. Imagine that. And let's just tell Israel we love you. Let's just tell, you know, the Gaza folks we love you. Let's tell Russia, hey, we love you. Let's tell the Ukraine, you know, we love you. Let's tell Venezuela and Cuba and everybody else along the, hey, we love you too. We're going to stand tall for the sacred cause of liberty. We're going to stand tall for checks and balances and the moral way forward via the Constitution. And we're going to take our founders' advice to avoid foreign entanglements like the plague. And we hope y'all do well. And when it's in your regions and things like that, you're going to have to provide incredible leadership and money, baby, especially to the Europeans. No more of this United Nations where the United States pays most of the bills and you pretend that you're equal with us and you're on equal footing and every nation is going to defend one another and whatever happens to you is going to be considered happening to us. Let's get rid of all that doctrine that creates these foreign entanglements. Let's get rid of all this effort to reward one nation and pit nations against one another and provide involvement that's not requested nor wanted, but forced on folks via NATO and everything else. Let's stop all that. Let's just please go back to this humble policy that, hey, the ceasefire is in question, and we pray that it's upheld. And the best way we can show that we're peaceful, folks, is by staying out of other sovereign nations' business. You say, Sam, that's not possible. It's a crazy world. You don't know. These people hate us. And then I would come back and say, I get it. And I agree that we can't do nothing. We can't just stay out of it and pretend there's no bad people or no hostile people. That's true. We got to defend America like nobody's business. And we do have a role to some degree to protect others. Where that begins and ends is the real discussion and question, the $64 million question, right? All I know is this: I'm grateful they had a ceasefire. I think there was less death and less destruction as a result. But now it's in question because the Israelis attacked. Their strikes led 24 dead. And I'm saying somebody needs to sit down with old Benjamin and say, hey, Ben, listen up, buddy. You had a ceasefire and you broke it. Not good. Not good, Ben. But see, what they'll do is they'll praise Ben and say, oh, Ben had to. Israel had to do this because, by golly, it's really the Gaza Strip people's fault. It's really, and we go down this road. It's a foreign entanglement, folks. Step back and pray for them and leave them to their own devices. We don't need to be the policemen of the world, especially when we can't afford it. And when all that does is create foreign entanglements that have lasted for thousands of years. We don't want to be drawn into that. Hang tight. Liberty Roundtable Live. I'm Sam Bushman.
Cybercrime is exploding. Take Sarah from Sweet Delights, whose world crumbled after having to close with not being able to bounce back.
Okay.
Small businesses are prime targets, but the right strategies can keep yours safe. Jay Hill, CEO of Network Providers, has co-authored The Cyber Playbook Simplifies Cybersecurity for Business Owners with Strategies to avoid costly breaches and fines. Build a strong cyber attack response. Secure your business with key protections. Cyber threats aren't slowing down, but you can stay ahead. Protect your business. Ensure its security for tomorrow. Get the Cyber Playbook today at networkprovidersinc.com/cyber-playbook or call 385-446-5500 now.
This is a battle between truth and deceit. A battle between forces that would enslave this country in darkness and between a media that wants to present you with the truth. We are being censored. America's news outlets no longer provide the truth. 90% of news outlets in the United States are controlled by 6 corporations. The mission of the Epoch Times is to chase the truth, to ground all statements in fact.
TheEpochTimes.com.
Looking for an IT partner that truly understands your needs? Managed IT Services is the answer. We meet with you regularly to discuss your goals and form a tailored technology plan. Our customers have called us a trusted advisor who delivers. When it comes to IT, we do it all. Firewalls, cloud storage, server migration, and more. Say goodbye to long-term contracts and hello to a team that earns your business month after month. Call 801-706-6980 now and let Managed IT Services transform your IT experience.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, the Epstein files are in the news. They're everywhere, and I believe there's subterfuge and confusion and all kinds of misdirection and everything else relating to the Epstein files. Let's talk about it, shall we? Jeffrey Epstein, they say, secretly created a $100 million trust fund for his girlfriend. No, not Ghislaine. And he also created money for Maxwell and other insiders a couple of days before his deaths. Now, that's interesting. You could say that points to suicide. You could say that also points to some real planning by some people. What that means, we don't really know. But federal records, they say, now show that Jeffrey Epstein signed a trust literally 2 days before his 2019 death in a Manhattan prison, directing $100 million to his girlfriend. You say, who is that? They call her Carrie, but it's Karina, or Karyna Shuliak, I think is how you say it. And then millions of dollars more to close associates. Yeah, that's interesting. Who? Well, his brother Mark Epstein, who claimed he didn't even know that was happening or that happened. Ghislaine Maxwell got a chunk of change as well. None of the more than 200 victims were named. So they didn't get anything, right? That's a serious concern. How come, just so I understand, how come we haven't heard this until now? Okay? You literally have money going to Ghislaine Maxwell, $10 million. Mark got more than that. And his brother's like, oh, I didn't know anything about it. Uh-huh. So we got $100 million trust for the girlfriend. He had over $700 million, as far as I understand. And some say more than that. And now there's a lot less money. They say they're not distributing funds until they understand who all's supposed to get money. But look, this guy died in 19, right? It's now 26. That means it's been, 7 years? At least 6 years. And we don't know what's going on yet, and we're just starting to get these details. That doesn't make me comfortable at all. Secretly created. How come it's still a secret? And you got to wonder, who helped him sign that? Who was around him? Who redirected the money? Remember how I always say what you got to do is follow the money? What you got to do is write down the names? How come Mark hasn't been put on the stand under penalty of perjury and more? Ghislaine Maxwell, you're just finding out. Everybody kind of thought, oh, Ghislaine was his girlfriend. Well, Ghislaine was, as far as I know, the girlfriend at one time. $100 million to his girlfriend, Karina Shuliak or whatever. Did you know that was his girlfriend? See, most people just don't even know what's going on with this stuff. But I look at it and go, I'm not comfortable with any of that. How much have we done to find out what this girlfriend has done? We know what Ghislaine did, right? And we know that Ghislaine used to be a girlfriend. But did Karina Shuliak, did she do the same things Ghislaine was doing for Jeffrey? Or was she just the innocent, normal girlfriend and Ghislaine was just the freak? Did this girlfriend, Karina or Carrie or whatever they call her, did she groom innocent, vulnerable girls? How come we haven't had this girl or this lady under scrutiny? I mean, after all, 2 days before, if you want to cry foul or you want to be a true crime buff or whatever else, think about this. 2 days before he died, suicide or murder, don't know, but he directed $100 million to this girl. And for 6 years, we haven't even known really anything about this girl or what happened to the $100 million. Did she get it? Did she spend it? Is she using it? Who redirected it to her? Jeff signed it, but who wrote up all those documents and got this all ready? Do you find it suspicious? Are we going to just say, oh, he committed suicide when we find out 2 days before somebody redirected this money to her plus Ghislaine plus close associates? You would kind of wonder if all of a sudden that money or that got redirected through a signed trust. Would that spark any questions for you if you're kind of a true crime? I don't care if you're just like a sleuth or if you're a real, criminal investigator or whatever. If you see somebody redirect over $100 million in a trust and then you die 2 days later, do you think there's any strings to pull on related to that, ladies and gentlemen? Do you think there's any concern that foul play might be involved when that happens? Why 2 days before did he do that? Did he know something? Was he planning and nobody else knew? But it's very, very suspicious indeed, if you ask me. Who does that? Whenever a big financial change happens right before a death, you go, whoa, motive, baby. Motive, baby. Don't you say that? Or am I just clueless? He secretly created. What do you mean secretly? Who did he prevent from knowing this? Because they say federal records show that's not really secret, is it? Unless the federal is involved in the secret, it's not a secret. See, if I tell you something and you're on my team, you might keep my secret. But if you're not on my team, you wouldn't keep my secret, would you? Especially when it points to foul play or points to concerning information at the least. So when we say Jeffrey Epstein secretly created this $100 million trust fund for your girlfriend and then point the money to her 2 days later, you're dead, and the federal records show the details, you go, oh. Now here's the next question. Who even lets people go into jail and get this signed and that signed and this document, Everybody that I know that's in jail, I've gone to visit people in jail, and I can't even talk to them. I'm on one side of the glass. They're on the other. We're talking distant. I can't hand them anything. Was Jeffrey Epstein in a very low security jail? Kind of like where Ghislaine Maxwell is right now. Was he in that kind of deal? They just walked up and said, hey, sign this, Jeff. I'm just saying everything about this points to I don't know what. Directing $100 million to his girlfriend. I have a problem with this whole thing. I think we're being absolutely punked on this, folks. I'm just not comfortable with what we're hearing at all. Millions more to close associates. None of the victims were named, though. And I want to know more about his brother, who claims he knew nothing about it. I want to know more about this new girlfriend. You can say new, Sam. Those of us who have been following the story know about her. I've been following the story loosely. I wouldn't say that I'm an expert on the Epstein files. I mean, after all, how can you be an expert when there's 3 million pages plus? Well, in the Epstein files, we're hearing all kinds of weird stuff, folks. I mean, just weird, wacky, crazy stuff. And the problem with it is, and Trump alluded to this, and Trump's probably right on this, but he says, listen, we haven't had control of the Epstein files, and therefore a lot of people have had control of them before us, and therefore a lot of what's in them may or may not be true, accurate, factual. Well, I think we need to have a real come to Jesus moment on what's true and accurate and what's not. And these investigators, literally 7 years later, should know what's true and what's not. And if they don't know what's true and what's not, then how can they with definitively say he committed suicide? How can they basically claim that, oh, there's nothing to these files? Because if they don't know what's true and what's not true, then they can't know. If they do know what's true and what's not true, then why are they releasing things that may not be even true or factual? Now, Epstein, I guess, there's been a big old conspiracy about his involvement. I'm trying to think how to say this. His involvement with eugenics. You know, you hear about the doctor who's kind of a weird doctor, and he's supposed to do artificial insemination or whatever else. And instead of, the sperm that the donors provided and the family or the mother, whatever you want to say, the woman wants, the doctor kind of switches out and does his own sperm. And so now he's a father and he has babies all over the place, right? You've heard of that weird, freaky, creepy stuff. Well, Epstein did indeed talk about seeding humanity with his own DNA. Yes, he's talked about that. People brought it up. Mainstream said it's nothing but a conspiracy. You're crazy. But yes, Epstein talked about it. Yes, the conspiracy theorists are true. It's real. Yes, it was in the Epstein files. The Epstein files revived the claim, but they say there's no evidence that he ever carried it out. And that's the next question that we got to ask. How many babies are there around that might be Jeffrey Epstein's kids? Don't know. Did he carry it out? Well, if we don't know what's true and what's not, they don't know. If they do know what's true and not, they need to tell us that's not true. They can't have it both ways, folks. That's the problem. They want you to believe there's nothing here. Move along. There's no names. There's no list. There's nothing. And now we're finding out a lot of the conspiracy claims are at least partially true. Jeffrey Epstein openly discussed the disturbing idea about spreading his DNA. And he showed interest in eugenics, according to multiple prior reports. We'll get into this because there's newly released details that make this even stranger. I'm Sam Bushman. You're watching Liberty Roundtable Live. Epstein files, baby. What do we know? What don't we know? And what conclusions can we draw? All the murky waters continue, don't they? I'm Sam Bushman.
Pursuing liberty, using the Constitution as our guide. You're listening to Liberty News Radio.
Breaking news this hour from Town Hall. Amit Thomason. President Trump is warning Iran's supreme leader against trying to rebuild Iran's nuclear program. The president says Ayatollah Ali Khamenei should be, in Mr. Trump's words, very worried. The president says there is a lesson to be learned from the anti-ICE rioting in Minneapolis.
Maybe we can use a little bit of a softer touch, but you still have to be tough. These are criminals. We're dealing with really hard criminals.
Mr. Trump, interviewed by NBC's Tom Yamas, he says it was his idea to scale back the number of federal agents in Minnesota as long as local authorities hand over illegal immigrants jailed for serious crime. Well, today's a day, the U.S. Capitol, the place, the 74th Annual National Prayer Breakfast.
Regardless of our backgrounds, our roles, or our viewpoints, we come together with a shared desire to seek wisdom, guidance, and perspectives beyond ourselves. That is the heart of why this gathering matters.
Republican Senator Roger Marshall co-hosting the gathering with Democrat colleague Senator Kirsten Gillibrand. President Trump is speaking at the breakfast. Family of 84-year-old Nancy Guthrie, she was kidnapped from her Arizona home last weekend, appeals for her safe return. Her daughter, the Today Show Savannah Guthrie, and her siblings posting a video to Instagram appealing to the kidnappers.
We are ready to talk. However, we live in a world where voices and images are easily manipulated. We need to know, without a doubt, that she is alive and that you have her.
Savannah describes her mother's health as fragile, adding that she is without the medication she needs to survive. On Wall Street, the Dow is down 299 points, while the NASDAQ is off 257. More on these stories, townhall.com.
Hi, it's Mike Gallagher. Now that we're finally into the new year, a lot of us are thinking about taxes, home projects we've been putting off, ways to get ahead financially in 2026. Now's the perfect time to talk to my friends at Fellowship Home Loans. If you want to lower your mortgage payment, they can help you refinance. If you need access to cash for home improvements or to wipe out high-interest debt, their fixed-rate line of credit is one of the best tools out there. Fast approval, predictable rate, and flexibility to use your home's equity wisely. Remember, many people still qualify to skip their next 2 mortgage payments. Imagine starting big projects or paying down debt with 2 months of breathing room. My family and I have used Fellowship personally. I trust these guys. Take control of 2026. Go to fellowshiphomeloans.com/Mike G. fellowshiphomeloans.com/Mike G. fellowshiphomeloans.com/Mike G. Or call 800-510-MIKE. That's 800-510-6453. Fellowship Home Loans. Mortgage lending by the book.
Nationwide Mortgage Bankers. DBA Fellowship Home Loans. Equal housing lender. NMLS number 819382.
Have you ever had great honey? No, I mean really good, all-natural, raw honey? Well, now you can, thanks to LocalHoneyman.com. We can ship out our locally made honey all across the U.S. So don't worry, you won't miss out. Plus, Local Honeyman has so many different flavors, like Utah Wildflower, High Desert Delight, Happy Valley, and Blackberry, just to name a few. So purchase your delicious raw honey today at LocalHoneyman.com.
As you are aware, America is divided over every fault line possible. This is intentionally fostered by those who do not love God, family, or country. We believe a peaceful future as a free people absolutely depends on civility. Clarion Call for Civility is looking for funding and volunteers at every level to make our hopes and efforts a reality. Please donate, sign our pledge, and help us in our sacred cause. Please visit callforcivility.com for more details. Callforcivility.com.
I have a question. Can a nation conceived in liberty carry its head high if it denies protection to the youngest and most vulnerable of its citizens? Can a country founded on God-given rights continue to thrive without understanding that life is a precious gift from our Creator? I believe that great nations and great civilizations spring from a people who have a moral compass. I don't think a civilization can long endure that does not have respect for all human life, born and not yet born. I will be in earnest. I will not equivocate, and I will not excuse. I will not retreat an inch, and I will be heard. One thing I promise you, I will always take a stand for life.
All right, back with you live, ladies and gentlemen. Sam Bushman breaking down the Epstein file releases. They say there's over 3 million pages. And the problem is Donald Trump pointed to something that I think is an honest, truth-telling reality. Trump said, the Epstein files haven't been in our hands the whole time, and therefore a lot of it's not true. A lot of it's been manipulated. Authorities are now cautioning that many file contents reflect only accusations, not even proven facts. And so that's the problem. I don't know that the Trump administration can really get to the bottom of the Epstein files. And that's not to attack the Trump administration. Kash Patel's been in some murky questioning and concerns and all that. Dan Bongino walked because he couldn't take it anymore. Don't know what's up with that because he's got a gag, can't really tell us. However, there's no verified evidence that Jeffrey Epstein ever carried out such a plan of eugenics, wanting to seed the world with his DNA. There's no verified evidence that he implemented such a plan, that he fathered children through it, or that he successfully carried out his genetic program. But here's the deal. If he talked about this, and if those people around him knew, these top whatever people, Donald Trump, Bill Gates, Bill Clinton, all these people, and he openly discussed this disturbing idea about spreading his DNA and showed an interest in eugenics. That's according to multiple reports. Now it's in the Epstein files. So the problem is, newly Epstein files have more notes that add fuel to that fire. The problem is, I don't know how we can know the truth of it. Where are we going to get the truth on it? See? And so I don't believe you'll ever get answers to the Epstein files. I think they've released what they're going to release. They're going to say we complied with the jot and tittle of the law. We're all good. That's what Pam and company is saying. So, has Kash Patel even seen the files? He claims he didn't see them, all of them. He read summaries and stuff. Then there's evidence that he supposedly, what? Opened the investigation, closed the investigation, did this, did that. Was he ordered to do so? Don't know. This is what I mean. It's very strange. We don't know what's going on with this at all. We have no idea, really. And to me, it's of great, great concern. We don't have answers. All right, but here's the deal. I thought Hitler was involved in this eugenics movement. And I thought he was the one that was like, hey, we got to have this white whatever race, and we got to have this pure race. Anybody with any disabilities got to go. Horrible. They'll ruin the gene pool. Never mind that I'm a blind person and I have 8 children and they all can see and all my grandchildren can see and I've got 10 of them. And so the idea that I've ruined the gene pool because of my disability is false. But nevertheless, that's what he thought back then. And he wanted to use eugenics to create an Aryan race, right? Supposedly. That's what we're told. And now Jeffrey Epstein kind of wanting to do the same thing. Now, I don't know if he was into the race discussion or if he just felt like he was smarter, better looking, more manly, more brilliant. I mean, I don't know what his reason is. I don't understand anybody's drive to want to just seed the world. Okay? I don't want my DNA with every woman. I don't want babies all around that I'm not involved in, knowing about, taking care. I want my relationship with one woman, my wife, and I want the children that result from that relationship where the children can be raised in a home with a loving mother and father. So me and my lovely wife as the parents, where they can look to us with confidence and security. We can look to each other with fidelity. And we can carry out our God-ordained roles as husband and wife, mother and father, loving our children. See, I don't want to seed the world with my seed. I don't know why he'd have this idea that he wants to spread his DNA. To me, it's just sickening. But no one's talking about this, really. And here's the question that I have. Number one, hey, he sent a big bunch of money 2 days before he died to some strange places. Has that been investigated? Is that an ongoing investigation? 6 years later, it sure ought to be. And then the question becomes, hey, maybe he didn't carry out his eugenics plan. Maybe he didn't father the world with his own seed. I don't know what his agenda was. I don't have the details on it. And I don't even know how much of it's factual, except for it's not just been in the Epstein files that got released. That's just adding fuel to the fire right now. There's multiple reports of this. They say, listen, Jeffrey Epstein openly discussed his idea about spreading his DNA around the world. You know, what does he want? Every woman pregnant with his? I don't even understand this. It's just sick. But this is, again, the big cover-up. So here's the question. One, do we have a drug/human trafficking cartel with little girls being carried out under new leadership since Epstein died? Don't know. No one's talked about it. No one's focused on it. That's the strange part to me. Who cares about the 3 million pages? At the end of the day, do we have a sex trafficking cartel that carried on after Jeffrey died? Somebody else filled the void and it moves right along underground? Same question about Hitler back in the day. You know, we were partners with Hitler before we were his enemy, and we helped with his eugenics program to a great degree. Go study history if you don't believe me, people. And the question is, after Hitler died, the eugenics program, did it just disappear or did it go underground? And I always maintained that it went underground and it did not disappear at all. In fact, I maintain they defended Hitler and sent him to Argentina. Now you can say, Sam, you're full of conspiracy. Then why did the CIA look for him 20 plus years later in Argentina? Just wondering. Go study all that if you don't believe me. Look, I'm not saying that the World War II abuses never happened. I'm not a denier in any way. But I'm also believing that we're not getting the whole truth on the story, that's for sure. And so, see, then I'm a anti-Jew, I'm a hater, I'm a bigot, I'm a this, I'm a that. No, I'm just being honest. So here's the question. After Hitler died, did the eugenics program continue? No, Sam, it died with him. He was the only nut on the farm. He was the only crazy guy. Oh, okay, well then what happened when Jeffrey Epstein came along? He believed in the same kind of thing. He wants to seed the world with his DNA. He openly discussed this disturbing idea. They say conspiracy theory. People talk about it and nobody else because there's no credibility. We don't really know. Okay. Well, is then eugenics carried on? Do you think Bill Gates would be interested in that? He wants to rule the world and control everybody and everything else too. By the way, the Epstein files say that Bill Gates probably got an STD from some Russian, I don't even know what to call her. You know, some would say a Russian whore or whatever else, a Russian hooker. I don't know any of that. I don't know if it's a girl that was used against her will. This is where it gets so murky we don't know. Bill Gates denying the claim. His wife going, oh my gosh, this just gives me PTSD or whatever it is because of this. You know? And then now we're basically saying, oh, we're going to redact everybody's names so we don't know who's involved. Well, how many of these people around Jeffrey Epstein, Bill Clinton, Bill Gates, all these people, how many of these people believe in the same eugenics agenda that Jeff does, that Hitler did? See, I don't believe in eugenics. I don't believe that we ought to try to create designer babies. I don't believe that we ought to try to manipulate God's gene pool for our own, quote, advantage. Hey, I want a tall, dark, and handsome boy. I want him to be super strong like the giants talked about in the Bible, you know. I want him to be 9'6" so he can dunk with his eyes closed. You know, I want to, come on now. I want God to determine exactly what happens with whom. I want people to be freely able to associate, marry, and be given in marriage, and then I want children to result. And if some of them are blind, then you love them and raise them, and hopefully they can become somewhat productive, right? No matter what disability someone has, everybody has problems with their genome, if you will. If you do gene sequencing on everybody, everybody's got mutated and problematic genes. It just may not be physical or noticeable because you might be a carrier. You might have that flaw, whatever it be, right? But you don't know. There's no way to get a pure gene pool. God started us out with a pure gene pool, and then mortality takes place, and things aren't perfect. And even disciples around the Savior, and the Savior, Jesus Christ himself, hey, I mean, the scriptures talk about it. He wasn't perfect. Now, don't get me wrong. He lived a perfect life, but they looked upon him and they didn't go, hey, there's a tall, dark, and handsome rock star over there, baby. He's got the genes of, you know, whatever celebrity you want to talk about. Yeah, he's got Marilyn Monroe genes and Jeffrey Epstein genes. This guy's going to be somebody someday. See, I'd rather just say God knows. He's the ultimate weatherman. He's also the ultimate creator of his children. We get to partner in that creation as his sons and daughters. That's true. It's a wonderful blessing. But when we start messing with the gene pool, when we start running around acting like, hey, I want to seed humanity with my own DNA. I mean, there's something wrong with people who have that agenda. Here's the problem. Are those programs continuing unabated right now without us knowing about it? My guess is the answer is yes. My guess is Jeffrey Epstein's sex cartel is continuing. My guess is that the DNA and the eugenics is still continuing unabated. It's just taken underground, out of sight, while they titillate us with 3 million pages of things you can't prove and don't know. Hang tight. Trump's sitting down with people that surprise you. Liberty Roundtable Live.
Bypass the mainstream narrative with Liberty News Radio at libertynewsradio.com. Engage with charismatic hosts live or on demand. We cover the crucial news focused on God, family, and country. News that other networks simply refuse to use. Think of LNR's hard-hitting news and podcast at your fingertips, anytime, anywhere. Join us at libertynewsradio.com. Empower your day with the truth, because the truth will set you free. libertynewsradio.com.
Introducing Managed IT Services from NPI. We offer top-notch data backup and recovery, email spam protection, and network security tailored to your needs and budget. With 20-plus years of experience in the medical field, our HIPAA-certified consultants know what it takes to protect sensitive information. Don't settle for less. Give us a call at 801-706-6980 and experience the difference with Managed IT Services. Remember, your IT support should be fast, efficient, and reliable.
Imagine a school where faith and integrity are at its center, where heritage and responsibility instill character, where educating both hearts and minds brings about academic excellence. There is a school in American Fork where character and embracing the providence of a living God are fundamental, where students' national test scores average near the 90th percentile. Based on LDS principles and a love of country, now in our 39th year, American Heritage School is accepting fall enrollment for kindergarten through high school. What would you do for your child? Give them an education that will prepare them for life. Located east of the temple in American Fork, American Heritage School is a remarkable and affordable alternative. Visit us, find us online, or in the Yellow Pages. American Heritage School in American Fork.
All right, back with you live. I know I've talked about the Epstein files quite a bit, but I want to continue on this topic just for a minute more. So I don't know if the sex trafficking is continuing, if the sex ring, the perversion, where Jeffrey Epstein, this pedophile, with little girls, I don't know if it's continuing. My suspicions are that it is. And I say that because you just don't engage in cover-ups and manipulations and all that if it's not true, right? So that's the problem. I think it's still continuing. The eugenics movement, it didn't die with Hitler, and it's not going to die with Epstein either. There are people, and you see this because go look at stories around the world where doctors get caught using their own DNA, their own sperm, in situations where they ought not. And then they come up with excuses like, oh, I had to. The original sample that I was supposed to use got corrupted somehow, or this happened, and rather than disappoint the mother, I just gave her some of mine. And then you just go, okay, creeper, weird, just strange. I don't know why they have this desire. It's in my opinion, kind of like a psychosis. Anyway, there you have that. I don't trust them. I don't believe them. I don't trust Donald relating to this. I don't trust Kash Patel relating to this. And it might be that they just don't have answers. It might be that by the time they got there, the files were so corrupted, so manipulated, they claim they've released them all, 3 million. How do we know there's not 3,400,000 and the 400,000 pages has all the facts? And we might find out in 10 years, oh, there was 400,000 pages and they were over here and no one knew. Or whatever they're going to claim. The bottom line is they're dribbling out details of this story intentionally so that it never trips a wire of somebody going to jail, so that it's planned release. Oh, Bill Gates got an STD from a Russian something. He denies it. Okay, next one. And you bring out fact after fact after fact, and then you claim the facts aren't proven, and we don't know, and we're not sure, and all this is conspiracy theory, and all this is whatever. And at the end of the day, you're just left with a big old intentional disruption, misdirection. And so everybody can just spend their time titillating about this. Let me continue a little bit more about the Epstein files. Not only is it full of things we don't know, but it's full of things that are, in my opinion, dishonest. I'll give you an example. People are now saying, hey, there's ties between the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, the Mormons. Yeah, they're in the Epstein files. That's all factual. But let me be very clear. Facts, when taken out of context, are not true. Yes, the fact might be true, but the conclusions drawn, the inferences suggested, are false and dishonest. Okay? And that's the problem. Okay? It's dishonest moral framing that claims compassion while excusing contempt. Okay? The problem is it's not true. So I'll give you an example. Yes, it's a fact that the Epstein files has references to the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, the Mormons. That's all factual. Let me give you a couple of the examples to make the point. One of them is a girl who left the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, left her family, went on her own, lived in Hawaii, something like this, somehow met somebody and ended up working for Jeffrey Epstein. It's all vague because it references the Mormon Church. But then we don't know more than that. So whether this girl, was really a Mormon or not, we don't know. Another example is Brigham Young University has a Provo, Utah campus and then a Idaho campus. It used to be called Ricks, but it's in a place called Rexburg, Idaho, and it's BYU-I is what they call it. It's the University of Brigham Young University in Idaho. And there was a girl that went there, and I guess this girl needed funding, and so Jeffrey Epstein has an email back and forth with a leader at this college saying, hey, I want to pay this tuition, and the payment wouldn't go through. Then there's more references that the payment did go through. So now the question is this girl a victim of Jeff? I mean, he liked to do things for girls. He liked to appear like the rock star, like I'm taking care of you in the early stages of the abuse, etc. And so did he pay a tuition for one of these girls? Probably. But none of those two stories make any tie to the Mormon Church. They're just mentioned by reference. Oh, Jeff paid. I mean, how's the person at BYU-I to know if Jeffrey Epstein at that time, a well-known philanthropist involved with multiple presidents of the United States and huge bigwig, professors and everybody everywhere, and this person probably doesn't even know Jeffrey Epstein. They're just like, oh, you want to make a payment on behalf of a girl? Fine, here's how you do it. That doesn't mean that there's any collusion or involvement or at all. Well, then it gets worse because they have other examples where, hey, Jeffrey Epstein made it a claim that he met the Mormon prophet. So now they're like, oh, that's sketchy. I don't think so. You might meet the Mormon prophet somewhere, and if you're a big philanthropist and you're put on the top, the president of the United States or who else could have said, somebody big said, hey, meet this gentleman. He's a great philanthropist. And that doesn't mean that the prophet knows. That doesn't mean that they were involved in anything at all. It just means that he claims that he met the prophet. Now, we don't even know if that's factual or not. And we'll never know. Why? Because the prophet that he talked about then was Thomas S. Monson. He's passed away. And Jeff's gone and Thomas is gone. And how can we ever know? Even if you say, well, Sam, there's a document here that shows they met. That doesn't mean that's true. It doesn't mean that's true at all. And so my point is, yes, the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, the Mormons, are in the Jeffrey Epstein files. But again, and this is a point that Donald Trump's made, when you release this stuff, it causes problems because you have all these inferences that can't be proven, don't know, etc. And so I'm not defending not releasing the files. And now I don't know that we're ever going to get a handle on this because it's intentionally, in my opinion, there's been red herrings put in this thing, ticking time bombs of Well, eventually you make a claim and they can prove it's not credible. All they got to do is release more pages, more details, and say, you don't know what you're talking about because of this and that. But they've literally broadened this investigation so much, and they've poisoned the well so many times over the years. And look, Jeffrey had special privilege back in 2009. Right? And everybody along with him got special privilege by the Florida courts, I might tell you. And then now, hey, this thing's so convoluted, nobody knows what's up, what's down. I think that's probably true. But the problem is it being done on purpose? I would say so. And I believe there's currently a sex trafficking ring that's continuing, just under different leadership. And the eugenics movement agenda is still continuing. And I bet you that there's bigwigs around the world involved in it, people that would surprise you. And I don't want to name names because I don't have any facts. But that's my point is, hey, I don't believe the sex ring goes away. I just don't believe it. It's like a drug cartel. They don't go away when a leader gets killed. They just have somebody else fill the vacuum. Okay, this DNA stuff, this desire to spread the world, spread your seed to the world or whatever, it's a psychosis, but these elites have this in spades. Go look at Klaus Schwab, the leader of the World Economic Forum, if you don't believe what I'm saying. These people are nutcases. The leaders of the Southern Poverty Law Center, the leaders of the World Economic Forum, all of them have been caught in racist, weird scandals. Sex scandals, all kinds of scandals. Anyway, there you have that. But the Mormons are in those files. But I don't believe for 1 second it's what we were told. I really don't. I believe it's dishonest moral framing that makes you kind of believe something. Oh, the Mormons were the Epstein files. Well, Candace Owens talks about how every organization is corrupt at the top. And I sadly think to some degree she's right. But in many ways, she's not right. Okay? In many ways, you cannot draw all these conclusions when you don't have the evidence. That's the problem with these things. You can't go off and say these things. It's irresponsible reporting. Okay? You have broken promises, lies not being disputed, betrayal of honest media. They're increasing division on every fault line. There's an agenda here to cover up wickedness. They call it secret combinations. By the way, that's what the Book of Mormon, Another Testament of Jesus Christ, calls it. Read that book, whether you read it for religious reasons or read it because it's the greatest handbook for freedom ever written. Don't care, but it's worth your time. I digress, except to say the Founding Fathers called it secret combinations as well. There are people who are conspiratorial, who do meet in rooms and do plan the demise of all nations, and who want the destruction of all government, because they want to destroy the world and then remake it in their image, not the image of God Almighty, but in their image. It's like the Tower of Babel all over again. Just different parameters. They thought they could do that through climate change, global warming, global cooling, and that's all been debunked. It's bogus. Now they've switched their sights and said, forget the climate agenda. That doesn't work. We've lost too much credibility over that sucker. Let's move it to AI. Yeah, let's let artificial intelligence take us into the new age. We can flood the world, like Zelensky says, with so much information, and we can make sure that no information has any credibility. We don't know what's right, what's wrong, what's up, what's down, what's left, what's right, what's real, what's fake, So they're promoting deep fake videos everywhere. They're promoting fake media stories everywhere. They're promoting all these different things about everything, but you can't prove anything, right? I mean, that's the problem. Jeffrey Epstein talked openly about seeding humanity with his DNA. Did anybody kind of get weirded out when he was openly talking about that? Or were they on board? We're not going to be able to connect those dots because they're intentionally going to, pardon the pun, seed false information. So we'll never know the truth. Sad but true. I'm Sam Bushman. We keep an eye on everything, folks. News the networks refuse to use is what I like to call it. And we are syndicated by the Loving Liberty Networks, lovingliberty.net. Incredible hosts around the clock. Check it out. Donate liberally as well, please. lovingliberty.net. I'm Sam Bushman. God save the Republic of the United States of America.